least 200 days. If the instructional time is increased, so does the employment term have to be increased. We also have 7 holidays that we can have. Also, there are 20 non-instructional days built into our calendar. We do have options for the calendar. We have adding 30 minutes to the minimum instruction day. If that happens, we can get 5 professional learning days, 5 inclement weather days, and other times needed for late arrivals, early dismissals, and faculty senate meetings. Option 2. We can submit an approved plan to West Virginia Department of Education for non-traditional instructional day. Those are in case for emergencies or to utilize when we can't teach in person. To have this done, we have to put an application into the state. The third option is if we do 30 minutes and do an application for non-traditional instructional days. We have 5 days of inclement weather or other emergencies, up to 5 equivalent days for professional learning, 5 days of instructional delivered for non-traditional manner. It also gives us time for late arrivals, early dismissals, faculty senate meetings, and other co-curricular activities.
I put them both in there.
If we go with the third option for the extra 30 minutes and the non-traditional plan, it would be the best option for us, having a flex of 15 days.
Oh, okay.
That's just another summary. We have 20 non-instructional days, 7 holidays, 1 election day, 6 out-of-school environment days, and the following is non-instructional days of curriculum development, 2 preparation days, professional learning, teacher-pupil conference, and professional meeting.
I'll do this, give them this. Well, it won't see it.
The calendar has to be submitted by May 2nd, 2025, and for graduation, it can't happen until 175 instructional days happen for the senior class. A calendar survey has already gone out. We have got all the results, and I'll be meeting with Grant County within the next 2 weeks. And those are all holidays that we get. Good Friday falls on April 3rd, and Easter falls on April 5th. We are anticipating Easter break to fall, or spring break to fall when Easter and Good Friday happen this year, our next calendar. Calendar voting days will be for 3 consecutive days. They're anticipated to be held in the middle of March.
All done?
All done.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions? Then we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the pledge and an invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Almighty God, as we gather, we ask that you would bless us tonight with safe travels on our way home. We ask that you would bless us with discretion as we go through our meeting and making the decisions that affect all the folks in the county. And we ask for safety for all the staff members and all the parents and guardians and all the students as we approach the days ahead. Bless us and them. Amen. And we have presentations.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight to discuss the future of Pendleton County High School cheerleading. Now, I am not a public speaker. If you would like me to teach you how to put Mr. Hedrick up in a stunt, that's my forte, but I am not good at doing public speaking, so I will just get straight to the point. We've been working really hard over the past few years to rebuild a successful cheer program. And I'm sure most of you are well aware of the success that our young ladies have had this year. We were PVC champs for the first time since 2017. We were regional champs for the first time since 2003, which, not to show JD's age, but I believe Hannah was still in school the last time that happened.
You're correct.
We were 4th in state, which is what the highest placing we've ever had as a cheer team from Pendleton County. Now, here are some numbers you may not know. This year, I have 12 young ladies who cheered for me. 11 of those were on the competition mat and went to state. No seniors, which means that all of them will be returning next year. 22 girls tried out for middle school cheer. 7 of those were 8th graders, which means they will be moving up next year. Rec League cheer for grades 3 through 6 has 24 cheerleaders. And with Raymond's Gymnastics, I know that these numbers are going to continue to rise. The running joke with my friends here is that currently we're going to have more cheerleaders than we do ball players. And right now we pretty much have 1 cheerleader for every ball player in the county. In the past, I've tried running the 2 programs by myself. I've quickly admitted that that's not a one-person job. But here's a number that you guys probably aren't aware of either. I can only put 13 cheerleaders on the competition mat and 2 alternates, which means that if I have 20 girls try out for competition, 5 are automatically cut. And if they are cut in August, our season does not end until April. That means from August until April, those girls have no access to anything structured cheer-wise. So I'm asking for an assistant, a paid assistant cheer coach, and also a volunteer assistant cheer coach. There are also girls who aren't interested in going to competition, so there's really not a place for them if I'm taking 15 girls to competition. There's not a place for them to just do sideline. A JV coach or an assistant coach would allow that person to take them. There's JV football games, there's JV basketball games, and that would allow them structured cheer practice to build for skills for future years to come. So those are just the 2 that I'm asking for. I know that pretty much every sport in the county already has a paid assistant coach and a couple of volunteers too. So those are the things that I'm asking for, and I'm coming to you because I want to continue to build this program, and I know that I can't do it on my own, and I feel like I just need to get the appropriate staff underneath me to help continue to build the program to what I know it can be. So thank you for your time. Mr. Hedrick told me I had 5 minutes. I think I did that in less than 5. But any of you have any questions for me?
Do you have any idea, that you say you have an assistant already?
I don't.
You don't?
No, middle
Okay.
school has a volunteer assistant, but I do not have an assistant right now.
So what would be a salary for an assistant?
I have no
You
idea.
have no idea.
We'll look at that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we had to look at is that cheerleading lasts pretty much all year as opposed to
It goes from
summer.
August to
So we'll have to
April.
look in that. And
Yeah, so
we'll-
we're a
we'll
little
bring-
different than the other
We'll
sports
bring
seasons.
something back to the board on February 4th.
Yes.
And we can have those discussions then. We'll put it on the agenda. This is just our presentation part.
Yes.
And you can ask questions during the
Can I ask
presentation.
questions?
Mhm.
Well, I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
to you too. I assume you went down and sat through it all?
Yes. I hear it every night, all the counts. I watch stuff 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's just like watching basketball.
No, there's a lot more downtime than basketball. Congratulations.
Thank you
Agnes.
very much. I do
Congratulations.
appreciate that.
And thank you for all you do. You put in a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
And it takes a lot of
It does.
work and skill.
I'm thankful for the group that I have. I just I want to continue to build it, so.
I would like to see Mr. Hedrick go up, though. if
Yes.
you could.
Yes. I can do that.
Want to do June 30.
I've already had to take one Hedrick to the hospital with a concussion from cheerleading in my lifetime. I
Yeah.
don't think we would need a second one.
We've got plenty of spotters here, Mr. Hedrick. We
Oh,
won't let
yeah,
you
we've got your back.
You had plenty of spotters there too.
That's true.
No questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you guys
And
very much.
congratulations
Yes,
again.
thanks.
Thank
Let's
you.
make sure we
Thanks.
get that on the agenda.
And then nothing under public comment. And so we next have the minutes of the January 7th.
You skip student and
I'm sorry.
staff recognition.
Yeah.
So under student and staff recognition, we just received a child nutrition audit letter. It came back and it was all good. It's there if you want to look at it, but you can go to the state website and actually pull up our audits from the past and pull this one up, and there were 0 findings in any areas. So congratulations to Holly and to the cooks in the schools for doing a great job. And it's record keeping, meal prep, and all those things, and we came through it with a glowing report, which is always good.
Congratulations to them. Does that conclude that, Mark?
Mhm.
Now we have the minutes of the January 7th board meeting, and we've received them. Are there any corrections or objections to the minutes you received? If not, then do we have a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any questions? And all in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. And now we move down to personnel. And under personnel, the first item that we have is the discussion of or action on superintendent of schools job posting with a possible executive session.
And I recommend we go into executive session to discuss the superintendent's job posting.
Our superintendent has recommended that we go into executive session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? And then all in favor of going into executive session for 6, 9A, 4, 2A, please, matters arising from appointment or retirement, et cetera, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. We are in executive session at I'll accept a motion to come out of executive session now.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. Any discussion on that? There's none, and all in favor of coming out of executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes, so we come out of executive session at 6:07 with no action taken. And now we move on into personnel.
All right, resignations and retirements. First, we have Lisa Jameson, retirement, secretary at central office. Next, we have Jackson Willis, resignation, half-time itinerant aide with autism mentor and CPI certification at Franklin Elementary School.
You have my recommendation to approve the retirement and resignation as presented.
Our superintendent's recommending approving the retirement and resignation as presented. Do we have a motion?
Right. Nobody wants to do that. I will with regret.
Motion to approve the retirement and resignation with regret. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? There is none, then all in favor of approving with regret the retirement of Lisa and with the resignation of Jason, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. Go ahead.
Employment of personnel, Madison Day, extracurricular yearbook advisor at Pendleton County Middle High School. Kyla Hoover, restricted substitute teacher. The other individual that is listed is being postponed to the next board meeting. Their application for certification is still under review from the state, and they're backed up momentarily.
You have my recommendation to approve Madison Day and Kayla Hu as presented.
Our superintendent's recommending that we approve the employment of Madison Day and Kayla Hoover as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? Then all in favor of approving the employment of Madison and Kayla, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. Nothing under contracts or coaches, volunteers and chaperones.
Approval of volunteer and chaperones. At Franklin Elementary School, we have Anna Rexroad for volunteer, and North Fork Elementary School, we have Joseph Grimes for volunteer.
You have my recommendation for approval of volunteers and chaperones as presented.
Our superintendent's recommending approval of the volunteers and chaperones as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any questions? All in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye. And opposed, no. Motion passes and nothing under leaves of absence. So we're done with the personnel and we move into the finance.
And actually, tonight, there is nothing under budget revisions. We may have some at the next meeting, but nothing for tonight. And then also no handouts or anything to review for financial update. We are certainly still monitoring any potential legislation in Charleston. The session has not started yet. Will not start until February. The budget instructions are out, but that looks as we discussed at last meeting, looks as expected for now, unless something would change with legislation. The secure rural schools that we sometimes call forest land funding from the federal government did not get reauthorized in December. They were trying to get that done in the so-called lame duck session. They're still going to try here in the spring, and so that obviously doesn't affect us as much as the state funding. It's still important to us, but it has still not been reauthorized, secure rural schools. Otherwise, with the fiscal year, everything is going along reasonably as anticipated with the current year. I'm sure we're using a lot of energy with the cold weather that we're having, but as is everybody else. We just got a notification. We, as a school system, belong to this network of energy suppliers up in Pennsylvania. It comes down through here, and they have a high demand warning for tonight and tomorrow, obviously. But at any rate, I think we're still doing fine, still looking at keeping an eye on the future as well and taking things as they come. But we have to be very vigilant in paying attention. Certainly the new governor has talked about a $400 million budget deficit. For next year, I saw that the House of Delegates, Delegate Hanshaw, is a little wondering where that came from, because, the former governor wasn't using that. And I suspect somewhere in the middle that, they'll try to meet on a budget. The governor will present a budget, legislature will look at it. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. That's all I have under update for tonight.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for JP and Finance?
No, we did get an email from Mr. Brown down there that how much money was wasted with the Hope scholarships on dance, and there were several things in the email. It kind of was interesting. And it's just going to take a while for people to figure that out. There'll be a lot more of it wasted,
Well, yeah, I'm sure people feel differently about that, and so, but yeah, it's slated to be a much larger budget item for the state, as that is set to expand in FY26. And I think they'll still be listening to public ed, but we're going to certainly have to, be very cognizant of what's going on and pay attention to all the different budget discussions that happen.
So that brings us to the conclusion of Finance, and we begin on Facilities.
Okay, I don't really have a whole lot. The only thing I just want to kind of give you an update on an application process for an MIP grant. We're going to try to apply for that. The deadline's April the 4th. And so next week on January the 30th, we have a group of people coming in from ZMM. Mr. Ben Ashley's bringing some folks up, and we're going to take a look at Franklin Elementary, specifically some controls and heating and air systems at that school. And they're going to help us with the application process. So that's about the only update that I have.
Any questions for Travis?
What's an MIP?
It's a grant you can apply for through the state for facilities and things like that. You can go up to $1 million.
MIP stands for Major Improvement.
Yeah, sorry.
So a needs project is like for a new school, where it could be $20 million, but MIP is limited to $1 million. It's a different funding cycle, but it does allow us to do for some improvements that aren't maybe necessarily large, but hopefully we can get some funding with that and apply, and then get funding maybe in June or something like that.
Anything else under Facilities? Then there's nothing under Old Business, and then New Business, we get the MOU with SP Photography.
And Mrs. Sebner out at the high school just asked that we approve this. This is just a MOU that kind of outlines an understanding between the school and SP Photography. It would be my recommendation that we would approve that for the remainder of this school year, which is 25.
Superintendent's recommending that we approve the MOU with SP Photography. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any questions? And all in favor of approving the MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. That motion passes. Attendance waivers.
I have one attendance waiver that we're requesting your approval on, attendance waiver 2425, number 6.
You have my recommendation to approve attendance waiver 2525, number 6. It should be probably, isn't it 24?
25.
25, number 6.
Yeah,
Doesn't say
looking up there.
25, yeah, it should say so.
Okay, that's what's on the letter.
I'm just reading off up there where it said.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine
Yeah.
right there.
Our superintendent's recommending that we approve the attendance waiver 2425, number 6. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any questions? And all in favor of the approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Early Learning Center.
There's no documents there for you to review, but we wanted to share our work on developing the Early Learning Center, which is an elementary alt ed program. We've been seeing statewide, we've been seeing more and more behaviors with our younger students, and there aren't many options for us to work with these students whenever it gets to the point where it's very disruptive to a classroom and very extreme behaviors. But of course, they are our students, we want them to be successful, we need to support them, but in a different way than the majority of our students. And so we've been working on developing the Early Learning Center. We've been to visit a couple of different counties to see how their programs work, and we've been working on sort of modeling our program after Wyoming County, who have implemented their program for a few years now. This would serve students in grades kindergarten through 5, and so it would be students, potentially students from Brandywine, Franklin, and North Fork. The program itself will be housed at Franklin Elementary with a behavior specialist teacher, and then at least one aide, potentially 2, depending on the situation and the number of students that we would have. The program itself will have a large focus on working through behaviors and the counseling while also still focusing on academics, but it'll be shifted a little bit where, you know, in our typical classrooms, we do a lot of work with social emotional learning. Miss White-Cotton has been heading that with Miss Stingo this year. And so they get sort of a basic lesson or introduction. Our counselors are working with them. This would be much more intensified, where that'll be the primary focus of teaching students how to regulate themselves to be able to move back into their classrooms to function with the rest of their peers. We would hope to cap the program at no more than 6 students at a time, and there's a pretty rigorous process that schools have to go through if they want to recommend a student for the program. So it's not I have a personality conflict with this kiddo and I prefer them not to be in our classroom, let's recommend them. It's not set up to work that way. So it'll be a lot of interventions, functional behavioral assessment, working through behavior intervention plans, and then you know, it's sort of a last resort. If nothing is working, then we can look at utilizing this program. That's a pretty quick overview.
How long would they be in, or is it a semester, a full year, or until they're ready to go back to their regular classroom?
So they would be reviewed every 45 days, every 9 weeks. Some students could potentially go back at the end of that if they've made progress and met their goals, because it is goal-based. We're set up to have it function on a 4-day-a-week schedule. So Monday through Thursday, and on Fridays, that would be the day that if students have outside appointments that they would be going to, they would make those ideally on Fridays, but that's also their transition day. So whenever they have met their goals and they're ready to start transitioning back into their regular environment, on Friday, they would start that transition piece. And so it's a slow introduction back so that it's not, you know, throwing them back and overwhelming them.
So that Friday wouldn't count as absent, wouldn't go against that
Correct.
student?
It would not.
Carrie, has the Wyoming County looked at where a majority of these kids are coming from? Are they in daycare, are they at home, or what is?
Whenever they come into the
Yeah, what
building.
have they been in prior to coming in and having issues in the school?
That's a good question, and I didn't ask that question. But I can. I know that in talking to them, so theirs has to function differently than ours, because they have a lot more students, and it's set up at their board office. So it's not in a school setting. It's entirely their own separate school, essentially. And they have K through 12 students in different parts of their programs. And so some students come in the morning, some students come in the afternoon, and there's a lot of shifting pieces to it. So just by the nature of how we're set up and how they're set up, there's differences.
Yeah.
I'll say though, whenever we went to visit, they talked about their students having a really positive response, because where they had never felt like they fit in somewhere before, they felt like this was their place. It was particularly with the middle to high school students, because they've gotten a little older and they've had some negative experiences in their schooling. They've just felt like that's where they fit in. That was their place. They said that they did feel like they were seeing that with their elementary students too, though. They model theirs based on no more than 6 students in a classroom. And students who had been having attendance issues in the past, they weren't seeing that with this 4-day-a-week design. And they have partnered with their local physician's office to help provide counseling, outside counseling during the school day. So that's something that we're looking into hopefully being able to provide too. I know whenever we've been talking with PCC, they are looking at hiring a couple of telehealth positions, because they haven't been able to fill in-person positions from Jennifer Taylor-Ride's job when she retired. But they were holding interviews and felt good about what they were seeing. So that's a big piece that isn't solidified yet, but hopefully is coming.
So you said this would be for students K through 5?
Yes.
What about 6th?
6 is already built into our
Okay.
6 through 12 alt-ed program at the high school.
Perfect.
Now, these will be positions we'll have to hire.
Nope.
No, we'll be able to cover them with,
We have staff in the building already that
Okay.
Ms. Moore has been working with to move into that position. They're ready.
okay,
We're ready to go.
great.
I still think you need to see, like I
Yeah.
said, because there's always a source of something.
You're right. You're right. And the students that we've talked internally about who may be potential candidates for the program, I mean, are students who we have tried a lot of different interventions with and have continued to struggle. And I mean, a lot of our students are coming to us with different forms of trauma and difficult backgrounds, and we're seeing a rise in neonatal abstinence syndrome, so whenever they've been born addicted to drugs. So I think that can potentially play a role into some of the behaviors we're seeing. But statewide, our young kids seem to be having more and more troubles, behaviors.
I think 6 will be a wishful number. I think you'll see an increase over 6.
I hope not.
So
But we'll
will
see.
all these be in one room, right?
Yes, yeah, so there is a classroom at Franklin Elementary that has historically been a special education classroom, but we're making some moves there, and so it's a room that has a divider. It also has a bathroom and a calming room attached to it. We're looking at getting some pads for in the calming room, so that if they are escalated and they're in there, they're not hurting themselves. Our teacher and aide that we're looking at are both trained in CPI, which is a de-escalation program, but also restraint training, should that be needed. And
Is there a curriculum they follow or anything? It's just a big age gap.
it is a big
May.
age gap, you're right.
Kindergarten to 5th is a big,
They will follow
Age
their
gap.
regular curriculum
Okay.
in terms of academics. But behaviorally, that's a piece that we're looking into. We did find a program online that we're looking at purchasing for the behavioral side of it.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And at least some of the students that go into this program would graduate back into the regular classroom.
That would be the hope, yes.
Okay.
Now, again, Wyoming County, they have had a lot of success with students moving back in, and they've had some students that they've thought, they've met their goals, let's try it out, and they've ended up moving them back because they weren't quite ready, and then they've had some students that they haven't moved out yet. Again, it's a relatively new, just a couple years old, but, the ultimate goal would be to help them be able to be successful in their regular classroom.
And there's other counties within West Virginia that are doing this other than Wyoming County?
Yes. We also visited Mineral County. Raleigh County is currently set up with a program, and Lewis or Upshur County? Upshur.
It's 11 counties altogether, I think, the last time I heard.
There's several.
There will be a lot more coming.
It's quite a problem. You see it on TV, read about it in papers. It's becoming a nationwide issue, not West Virginia. It's, yeah.
I'd like to approve this. You have my recommendation to approve the Elementary Learning Center program as presented.
Our superintendent's recommending that we approve this Early Learning Center program as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second.
Oh, I'm a second. I didn't hear the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve it. Any discussion or any more questions?
Do you have a tentative start date if with this approval?
With this approval, we would start moving forward ideally next week with our first meeting for our first kiddo that we would be looking at.
A month or so, or within?
With mid-February.
Mid-February. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any additional questions? And all in favor of approving the Early Learning Center, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Mr. President, I did have one more question, if you don't mind. Do you have to have parental approval to do this?
It's a great question, and that was one that we were asking too. We should have parent permission, parent approval. What it comes back to is the students that we would be recommending for this program have not been successful in their regular environment. And really, it boils, in my opinion, it boils down to we're not successful, which would result in disciplinary actions, which would result in not being in the building, or we could try this other program to help them be successful, where, you know, there still will be disciplinary consequences for behaviors, but it's more supportive. So parents can refuse, but the likelihood that their student will be successful in their regular classroom isn't great.
Is there a scenario where this child could maybe be expelled and go into this program? If,
That's not what we have been looking at.
right.
No.
Is there paperwork? Like, it sounds like special ed with behaviors disorders.
There are forms that we have adopted for our county that follow the placement procedures. So it does kind of merge the worlds of special education. So there could be students in the program who have IEPs, and there could be students who don't have IEPs. To ideally get into the program, again, they would need to conduct a functional behavioral assessment, which is essentially collecting a lot of data that tells you what behaviors are occurring and when and why. You know, what's causing the behaviors. From that, you develop a plan to say, well, if they're acting up in the hallway, maybe there's something that we can change in the hallway to reduce those behaviors. And so that's one of the first big steps, is conducting that FBA and putting together a BIP to see if we can fix the problem in their regular environment. If we don't have to move a kiddo out of their classroom and out of their school, we don't want to do that. If they can't be successful after we do those things, though, that's the point that we would start looking back toward the program. And we decided to call it Early Learning Center because ALTED doesn't sound great. You know, it's a lot of parents have a pretty negative opinion whenever you say ALTED. We were hopeful that, you know, it is a learning center where they will learn a lot of different aspects, not only just their academics, but the social, emotional, and behavioral piece to help them be successful once they do return. I feel like you had asked another question that I didn't answer.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
How would they get, so it's going to be centered in Franklin, correct?
Yes.
Brandywine and North Fork kids, how would they get?
They would be able to be transported on the buses.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so this motion, it was approved, so it is approved to have the Early Learning Center, and thank you for working on it.
Yeah, thank you.
And that finishes us up under new business, and we move to other, the fifth month attendance report and mid-year update.
That's me too. So, a lot of people don't really love our delays and our snow days, but they're great for attendance. So, if you take a look there, our highest individual grade was North Fork Elementary School's sixth grade class at 99.259%. It's
I was
remarkable.
gonna say, you don't see that.
You do not see that. They have now had 2 days this school year with 100% attendance. It's just amazing. And whenever we start looking at where they were last year compared to how they're doing this year, it's just phenomenal.
JD and I have bribed them to try to win.
You
this
did.
thing, and
It's working.
We're working on it.
Our best individual school percentage was Franklin Elementary at 96.448%. And take a look there. The best county grade level was 9th grade. We never see it at the high school. 9th grade. So they were at 97.314%. So a lot of really great things to celebrate there. I need to let Mrs. Hefner know, and they need to recognize that 9th grade class. So that was the 5th month attendance for you, and the county average as a whole was 96.124. There were a couple other documents there. So chronic absenteeism. I have been tracking every 10 days where schools are for chronic absenteeism. I color code it just for my own brain to be able to function a little bit better. It's connected to the end of the year, the balanced scorecard colors. So red is does not meet standard, yellow is partially meets, green is meets. If we had people who were below 5%, it would be another color. If you take a look there, we are showing improvement across the board from day 90 compared to where we were. So as a county as a whole, on day 90, we were at 12.27% chronic absenteeism. And at the end of last year, it was 18.9 for the county. Just to brag on North Fork a little bit more, at the end of last year, they were at 19%, and they are currently at 7.69, which is the lowest in the county. And the high school, I feel like they need recognized too. They've been working so hard. They were our lowest performing school for attendance last year. They ended the year at 25.1%, and they're sitting at 15.71 right now. Mrs. Hefner and Ms. Cook have been doing a lot of attendance meetings with kids, and it looks like it's helping. So they're doing a really great job there. The next one was just attendance rates in general for you guys to take a look at up through day 90. So again, green is 95% or higher, which is where we want to be. You can see North Fork and the high school. North Fork is really close to that 95%. The high school's a little bit lower, but still not in a bad place. And then there were just 2 others that I'm sharing for your information, and it's my comparison across years. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with it, but we are seeing general percentage growth, the average daily attendance growth. It's green across the board. Our chronic absenteeism isn't green across the board. So meaning Brandywine and Franklin's rates for day 90 are a little bit lower than they were last year on day 90, but they're still in a really great place. So 11.76 for Brandywine. Last year they were 11.7 on day 90. Franklin is at 8.77. Last year they were at 7.59 on day 90. But I can tell you that other counties would die to have a percentage that's lower than 10%. So they're still in a good place. That's all that I have. Do you all have questions for me?
Thank you for the update and for the good news. School improvement, student achievement.
The only thing that I have is just a reminder that we have the textbook caravan in Morgantown on February the 5th to look at social studies and preschool materials.
Any questions? Our superintendent's update.
Okay, so we have used our 5 summer saver days. We have used 4 of our accrued time days out of a possible 5. Our accrued time comes out of, it's like a bank account of extra minutes. We subtract out our 2-hour delays, our 3-hour delays, and we also can subtract out up to 5 accrued days. Today or tomorrow could be one of those accrued days if we eventually get enough time to cover that. And that would be based on how many 2-hour and 3-hour delays we have in front of us. Now that sometimes is a little difficult for me when I try to explain that to staff, but it's really like a bank account, and you only have so many minutes in the bank account. And I can't tell you sitting here how many 2-hour and 3-hour delays we're going to have coming up. If we don't have too many, we won't have to make this day up, but if we continue to have a lot of 2 or 3-hour delays, we may have dipped into that bank account too much, and we won't have enough to cover that 5th day. So we can cover up to 5 days. We have enough to cover the 4. This would be the first day if we need to make it up. This would be the first day tomorrow. So if we do make it up, that would go into our spring break, and that would start on that Monday, March 17th, as our first makeup day. It's an OS day, and we're required to make up our OS days as they follow through. So we have 6 OS days, 5 of them are that week. Those would be the first 5 we would have to make up. Then we also have an OS day at the end of the year. We would make up those 6 OS days, and if we run past that, Travis, then we start running into our summer days clear into June, at the end of June. So that's how all that works. And again, sometimes it's a little difficult to explain, but so we still have a buffer before we would get into our summer days of 6 more days, which would be the whole week of our spring break plus the last OS day there towards the end of school. So we do have some buffer on that, but that's how it all works out for us in the calendar. And again, depending on how much subtraction of those 2 and 3-hour delays, we may or may not have to make this day up tomorrow, tomorrow's day. Does that make sense?
So your 2 and 3-hour delays do count?
Yeah, they come
against
out
your
of our
snow
banked
day.
time. They used to call
Okay.
it bank time, which made more sense to
didn't
me
know
than
that.
accrued time, because you
didn't know that.
kind of banked it, and then when you needed it, you subtracted from your
Okay.
account.
I
And that
didn't know
made a little
that.
more sense
Okay.
than what we do.
I just
Yeah.
figured that counted as a school day.
Charles, why did y'all have y'all spring break in March? Usually they had it around Easter.
We typically had it at Easter, but Easter came early this year, correct?
No, it's
Later.
Yeah.
So the teachers didn't, they wanted
They
it
need to
somewhere
break.
in March as opposed to doing it in April where we're doing a lot of our testing too. There was a little concern with that, so.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Like for pre-K that doesn't go on Fridays, if they have a packet day, what happens there? Some parent asked me today. Is it just used up?
They don't go on Friday.
I know, so do they have an extra
They don't
day
get
in
an
there?
extra day.
Okay.
They're not required to go as many days.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Yeah.
parent was asking me, I said, well, I just assumed.
No, it doesn't
Okay.
work, it doesn't work the other way.
That's what I thought, so, okay.
And that's really the only thing I have.
Okay, then conference and meeting update.
I am leaving early in the morning. The superintendents have a meeting with the state superintendent of schools tomorrow at 11:30 in Fairmont. And then I have legal updates on Thursday and Friday morning.
What's going to happen with our VOTEC meeting tomorrow morning? I'll call in at 8:30 VOTEC.
Well, I'm hoping I'll be in Elkins by 8:30.
Then you can call in.
Mm.
Okay. Good enough. Okay. Any questions under conference and meeting update? Then our next regular meeting of the Pendleton County Board of Education will be Tuesday, February 4th at Pendleton Middle High School, beginning at 6, immediately following the LSIC presentation. And I will now accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. We are